Welcome to the Daily Boogie.
But since we're in the mood, let's roll. It's time for
The Weekly Stelter.
I
See
want to
what
know
Brian's
first
got
about
for
your
us
meeting
this
at the
week.
White House. You said it was pre-scheduled. It wasn't related to your recent appearances on Hannity. But do you find that when you're on television, it is the best way to communicate with the president unless you can see him in person?
Well, I don't want to communicate in any other way. I do.
This is obviously the known right-wing nutjob Alan Dershowitz talking about the raid on Trump's lawyer. Obviously a fascist Alan Dershowitz. He's only going to come in. He's also going to suggest a theory that raiding lawyers is not necessarily a wise thing to do, and that it may or may not be politically motivated. That's just a theory, though. We're just running with the theory because Alan Dershowitz is obviously a brown shirt, and when he's not appearing on the right-wing fascist network known as CNN, I mean, Brian Stelter's obviously a neo-Nazi. Look how bald that head is. So when he's not appearing on the neo-Nazi Brian Stelter's fascist program, Reliable Sources, Alan Dershowitz is running around the ghettos of Poland, kicking in Jewish shop windows. Of this, I'm certain.
Not want to be his lawyer. I don't want to give him legal advice. I can't give legal advice on a one-to-one basis. I can only state what I believe are the constitutional issues on national television. One of the reasons I don't want to be his lawyer is because I have no interest in what happened to him before he became president, his business life.
That's not true, Alan. The only reason you don't want to be his lawyer is because you know he's going to lose because of Stormy Daniels and the payments, etc. You big scaredy cat, Alan. Don't try and lie to us.
His personal life. I'm only interested in the Article 2 issues, the constitutional issues. I'm interested in doing what the American Civil Liberties Union has failed to do, and that is defending the rights of all Americans. The ACLU, for the first time, I think, in its history, issued a press release defending, justifying, and praising the raid on Michael Cohen's office without alerting the Americans to the risk that happens if you allow invasion.
The American Civil Liberties Union, obviously not politicized in any way, now praising the raiding of a lawyer's office and the seizure of private documents. The Civil Liberties Union, they love kicking indoors. They love SWAT teaming people. Civil liberties. Yep, that's not politicized in any way. This is not a politically motivated attack. This is not good. Brian is not happy here with Alan Dershowitz. Brian is not happy, but I'm sure Brian's got a zinger just waiting for us right around the corner.
Into a lawyer, a doctor, a priest, a spousal privilege. So I'm the default guy on civil liberties. There's nobody out there.
Has the
defending
president
civil
asked you
liberties.
to be his lawyer?
I can't ever say who's ever asked me to be his lawyer, but I've made it clear. I don't want to be the president's lawyer.
Is it
I
your
want to-
impression he's having a hard time getting a lawyer?
No, I think he got a good lawyer in New York. I think he has some good lawyers in Washington. There's a lot of conflicts of interest, which make it very hard for him to get lawyers. I know that a lot of good lawyers who wanted to get involved in the case, their law firms won't let them because they have conflicting interests. But I think the key point is to make sure that in an effort to get Trump, we don't diminish our civil liberties and create bad precedent.
I just find it interesting that if Donald Trump's such a dictator, and anybody who would seek to work with him in an official capacity is obviously sympathetic to those dictatorial tendencies, why would they care about conflicts of interest? You know, why would that be an issue? You know, for a dictator who cares not for law and order and is just merely using the White House as a political battering ram against their opponents, unfairly and unjustly based on suggested theories, of course, they seem to be dotting their I's and crossing their T's a fair bit. Of course, the Mueller investigation itself, ladies and gentlemen, was racked with a number of conflicts of interest that we know of. So much so that judges had to recuse themselves, investigators had to go bye-bye. We couldn't have all these investigators with their conflicts of interest. But of course, that's just a suggested theory. That's not necessarily true. Maybe they were sacked because they ate the wrong lunch. Maybe. Jennifer Brick says, this guy's spouting too many theories. Better interrupt. Maybe that we'll make that the drinking word of the night, ladies and gentlemen. Theory. Suggested theory. It's got to be 2 words. So fill your cup, because we're gonna have a lot of talk about suggested theories. There's our theme for tonight's show.
Trying to get Trump.
Oh, a lot of people are trying to get Trump. A lot of radicals, a lot of lefties, a lot of people, a lot of my friends, a lot of...
Oh, you're throwing out words. Nobody's trying to get Trump. Coming up after reliable sources, Robert Mueller is about to get Trump.
My friends and relatives are furious at me because they want to get Trump, and I'm in their way. I'm standing in the way of getting Trump by raising Article 2 issues.
Look at Brian. He can't believe it. Look at Brian's face here. He's like, are you kidding me? Nobody's trying to get Donald Trump, you wacko. Alan, please. Nobody's trying to get Trump. I mean, all those kids marching in the streets with the hats, for one thing, and the guns, they're not trying to get Donald Trump. Maxine coming on the news every second day saying, we're going to impeach 45. She's not trying to get Trump. That's just all a suggested theory, my friend.
Furious at me because they want to get Trump, and I'm in their way.
Drinky.
I'm standing in the way of getting Trump by raising Article 2 issues, civil liberties issues, civil rights issues. If you don't think there are people out there trying to get Trump, just like they were trying to get Hillary Clinton, people were trying to get Hillary Clinton.
I think
lock
many
her up.
people are opposed to President Trump, but when you say get Trump, it implies to me some sort of coordinated, almost conspiracy. Let's go out.
It's a conspiracy theory. Brian Stelter for the win. He's managed to say that people are trying to get Donald Trump suggests to me some kind of conspiracy theory. There's no conspiracy. That's again, it's just a suggested theory, ladies and gentlemen. Conspiracy theories are suggested theories. Remember that. Drinky.
No. There's no conspiracy when they said
Robert Mueller trying to get Trump?
When they said get Hillary, there was no conspiracy. Just a lot of people wanted to lock her up. A lot of people want to lock up Trump.
Do you think Robert Mueller is a part of that?
I think Robert Mueller has a target that he's after. When you're a special counsel, you don't want to come away with nothing after you spend millions of dollars.
He's already got plenty.
So, no, I don't think he has plenty. I think he has low-hanging fruit. And
did everyone see Stelter's response there? He's already got plenty. Now, ladies and gentlemen, watchers of this Periscope will remember that we've gone over this many times. I think we've done like 6 or 7 weekly Stelters now. I think that's where we're up to. So we're tracking Brian Stelter every single week here on this Periscope. This is Brian Stelter Ground Zero. The vivacious, vicious kind. Thanks for joining us. This is Brian Stelter Ground Zero right here. So we track the degradation of Brian Stelter's form and suggested theories from week to week. Now, a common theme for Brian Stelter is to start his little presentations with, we know so much about the Mueller investigation. You're not going to believe the amount of shit that we've got on Donald Trump thanks to Robert Mueller. I mean, it is off the planet, man. There is so much out there. How can people say that this is just a suggested theory? Drinky. So how can people say this about, how can Donald Trump pretend like Robert Mueller isn't getting to the bottom of some vast scandal here? And that's how he starts it. And then halfway through the little segments, which usually go about 10 minutes or so, he'll then say, well, look, here's what we know. We know that Robert Mueller is asking this question. We know that Robert Mueller has asked this question. We also know that other people are asking Robert Mueller this question. As if asking questions was never part of an investigation. Like, see, because I could ask you, are there Chinese immigrants beating whales to death on the surface of the moon? That doesn't necessarily mean that there are indeed Chinese immigrants beating whales to death on the surface of the moon. That's not how it works. Merely asking the question does not mean that the the supposed outcome of said question is incontrovertible fact. That's not necessarily how investigations work. So all this time, Brian says, we know so much about the Mueller investigation because we know what questions are being asked. And then he admits we really don't know anything at all because all we know is they're asking questions. So he's like, we've got so much. And rather than tell the known right-wing fascist Alan Dershowitz what he has, he merely says, Alan says, no, I don't think he's got much at all. He's got low-hanging fruit. And then Brian kind of does this, what? Like, I can't believe what I'm hearing here. I just can't even.
Planning. I think he has low-hanging fruit. And right now, if he could get Trump, it would be a great feather in his cap, just like Ken Starr wanted to get Clinton. That's what special counsel do. Their object is to
it's about ego almost.
No, it's about
about ego.
Reputation. It's about their perception of integrity. In the end, ego plays a role. But it's the role of the civil libertarian to make sure that they don't use means to justify their ends that lie around like loaded guns and can be used as precedents against all of us.
General,
it was
thanks for
H.L.
joining us.
Mencken who said, first they go after the SOBs, and they establish precedents there, and then they come after the rest of us. That's been my role for 53 years, whether it was defending Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Democrats, Republicans. I'm not partisan. I only care about civil liberties and due process.
Yes, but Alan, you're forgetting Donald Trump, Robert Mueller. He's a dictator, right? How can you defend a dictator? Alan, look, I know you're nonpartisan. I know that you're just defending civil liberties of all Americans and oftentimes drawing the ire of one particular political side or the other, depending on who you're defending at that particular time. But in this case, you're just sticking up for a dictator. So all bets are off.
Do you think it's a problem that the president seems to watch so much television, react to what he sees on television, including your...
What kind of an idiotic question is that? Alan, taking on board your 5 decades of legal expertise and strong record of standing up for people's civil liberties, do you think it's a problem that the president watches so much television? I seem to recall many reports suggesting that Barack Obama used to watch like 4 or 5 hours of ESPN a day. Like, never missed ESPN. Big sports buff, Barack. He actually said in an interview once that if he wasn't the president, he'd want to be a baseball commentator. Do you remember that? And, you know, I hand on my heart, I'd love to be a sports commentator too. I don't know if I'd be in the White House dreaming of being a sports commentator. That's maybe a bridge too far. But, hey, you know, more power to you, Barack. Maybe start in Cuba. They could use a good ground announcer in Cuba. It's great fun. I've actually done that once, ground announcing in the Australian Baseball League. It's fantastic stuff. Now on third base, Brian Stelter. You see, it's good stuff. But yeah, Alan, considering that you've defended the civil liberties of all Americans for the past 5 decades, do you think it's a problem that Donald Trump watches so much television? How the hell are you supposed to answer that?
segments. Is it a healthy thing?
Look,
Is it healthy?
That's how he got elected president. He tweeted, he watched television. I'm not going to second guess that. My preference would be for Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, who are much more...
Faith Hope Love says, can you see your hearts? No, I can't see any hearts. I just assumed that nobody loved me. But that's all right. We don't need hearts here.
Studious, who work hard. He works hard, but who are much more substantive in some ways. That's why I'm a Democrat. That's why I voted for Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I'm not here to defend him. I'm here to defend civil liberties and due process.
Then in the New Yorker this weekend, Adam Davidson has written a column that's getting a lot of shares. I think a lot of liberals
Want to talk to Trump? Go on TV.
reading this column as a fantasy. Let's put part of it on screen.
Fantasy.
He says, this is the week we know with increasing certainty that we are entering the last phase of the Trump presidency. This doesn't feel like a prophecy. It feels like a simple statement of the apparent truth.
Of course.
Davidson's argument is that the Michael Cohen raid, the investigation of Cohen, is going to unearth a lot of damaging information about both Cohen and the president. Do you believe that's the case, that the Cohen raid is going to be very damaging?
I've always thought, and I said it months ago, that the greatest danger that President Trump faces is not his alleged obstruction of justice or collusion.
That's okay. Whenever I don't see hearts at any time, I'll just assume that everybody is pumping hearts. And so I might even apply that retrospectively. So when nobody was watching my Periscope and like I wasn't getting any comments or any hearts or anything, I can now, with this knowledge that Periscope glitches do exist, I can now project that into the past and know I can see the super heart. Thanks for that. I will project that into the past, and now I'll know that the whole time everybody loved me. Everybody was watching, everybody was commenting. Oh, Boogie, you're so charming and funny and sexy. Oh. Heart, 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 heart. That was happening the whole time. So I appreciate this Periscope glitch. Thank you for boosting my ego. Oh, thanks for the super hearts as well.
But his pre-presidential private life, if he were to testify in any of these women cases, we don't know what Cohen has. We have no idea. But he doesn't have the same kind of constitutional defense if they were to find material. Also, he's vulnerable because if they find material, they can go after him for state charges, and he can't pardon in state charges. He can only pardon for federal charges. So I do think that his lawyers ought to be focusing a lot of their attention on the Southern District of New York, the State Attorney General of New York, and less attention on Mueller, although the Mueller is...
Oh, yes, that's interesting too. Now we know that the big bad Mayor Rudolph Giuliani is on the team, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? If I can just sidetrack just for one moment, I promise I won't go too far down the rabbit hole with Mayor Giuliani. It's a bit fresh. It's a bit fresh. We can't know for sure. But here's what I think about Rudolph Giuliani. He was a Republican that was elected mayor in New York. Thank you so much for the super hearts. I can see all them. Thanks. So here's a Republican that was elected mayor in New York, one of the least Republican cities that you can imagine. He introduced something in the policing, because there was a lot of problems with crime and whatnot at the time that Rudy Giuliani was elected. So he introduced something in policing which is called broken windows theory. Now, the broken window theory is you arrest the guy for smashing a window, because, you know, a lot of times before that, the police would ignore the small crimes and just go after the big crimes. Broken windows theory is people who, you know, do small crimes, if you don't stop them there and then, go on to commit bigger crimes, because a law-abiding person isn't going to smash a window. You know, a law-abiding person isn't going to skip on a train fare. A law-abiding person isn't going to take down, like, go down that path of just, like, small crimes for the sake of it. So by stopping the guys doing the small stuff, you prevent them down the line doing the big stuff. And really, it's just enforcing the law. Really. Selective law enforcement there's a downside to selective law enforcement in that you're not going to stop the guys before they go on and do worse things. And, you know, with introducing this edict into the New York police force, like, crime went through the floor. Like, I remember the stories, even though I was quite young at the time. I remember the stories, like, Times Square was basically a no-go zone for a long time before Giuliani. So the fact that, and the fact that he was a Republican elected mayor in New York suggests to me, if nothing else, that the man understands timing in politics is vital. Now, he could have been part of the Trump team for a long, long time, Giuliani. He could have been part from the beginning of the Trump presidency, but he chose not to. He opted not to. Now, if you understand timing in politics, and he's choosing to come on board now at this time when the likes of Brian Stelter are telling you that it's all about to unravel for the Donald Trump presidency, like, it's over. The raid of the office, I mean, it's over for Donald Trump. He's living on borrowed time. He's almost out of there. Someone with the political intelligence of Rudy Giuliani, why would he get involved now? If that were true. If it were true that the Donald Trump presidency is on its last legs and is about to collapse under its own weight, why would somebody throw their political lot in with that sinking ship now? He could have been part of the Trump presidency from the beginning, when the times were good. Why now? To me, that move by Giuliani to get on board with the Trump administration now suggests that the Trump presidency is not about to come to a stuttering end, if in fact it may be going the other way. You may be just about to see a big upswing. When you take into account the IG report that's coming down the line, what does Rudy Giuliani know? Because if you understand political timing, then you don't get involved with a White House that's about to collapse. You steer clear of it. You protect yourself. You don't dive in and go down with the ship. And he's joined now because the good times are perhaps about to roll. So let's go back to the known right-wing fascist Alan Dershowitz.
Matter is connected to New York. He is much more vulnerable on what he did before he was president than when he's done as president, because what he's done as president has constitutional protection. The other does not. That's how they got Bill Clinton. Before he was president, you know, the women, they didn't get him for when he was president, except that the perjury that grew out of what he had done previously. That's the vulnerability.
Since you were with the president this week, do you sense that he knows how bad a fix he is in?
President didn't talk.
He's just... Brian Stelter's like, it's over for Donald Trump. Alan Dershowitz gives this like 2-minute answer that's completely contradicting what Brian Stelter says. We've done one of our weekly Stelter episodes was Brian Stelter, I'm listening. He's such a good listener, Brian Stelter. The Donald Trump presidency is about to end. Your comments, Alan Dershowitz. Well, I don't think it's about to end. A lot of these people tried to end Bill Clinton and they couldn't end him. You know, there was a lot of turmoil in the past. Yep. Do you think he understands how much trouble he's in and like how soon he is to the end? He's just a fantastic listener, Brian Stelter. He's boyfriend material, trust me.
About that kind of thing with me. I was there to talk about the Middle East. I've been there 3 times to talk about the Middle East. My hope is that he can help bring about a peaceful resolution of the Middle East, and I want to help him. I try to help President Obama. I try to help President Clinton on the Middle East. That's my passion. That's why I was invited to the White House, and that's why I will continue to go back to the White House no matter who's president to try to help fix the big problems in the Middle East.
Did he seem particularly angry this week when you were there?
I was only with him for an hour and a quarter. It was a very informal...
I love it. You bring a guy on with 5 decades of legal expertise around defending civil liberties, and you ask him questions like, does Donald Trump watch too much television? Did Donald Trump seem angry when you saw him? This is hard-hitting investigative. Brian Stelter asking the tough questions.
Dinner with a group of people. He seemed upbeat. He wanted to talk about, you know, the Netanyahu issue in Israel. He wanted to talk about the Gulf in Syria and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You know, I'm a stranger to him. I'm not his friend or his intimate.
Oh, I can't imagine you're a stranger.
I am.
He's seen you on television
I know,
so many
but
times.
in
You guys.
You're not a stranger. He's seen you on television.
Have a relationship for decades.
No, we don't. I mean, I met him like twice before he was president, mostly for handshakes and one phone call. We're not friends. I've never been in a social setting with him at all, and so he would never show me.
Don't let facts get in the way, Alan. We know that the president has seen you on TV. Of course you're friends, you're best buddies, you're pals.
His feelings. I'm somebody brought him from the outside to help on the Middle East and then go home. In fact, at the dinner, they basically threw me out when they wanted to talk about confidences. They said, all right, we're finished with dessert, you leave now. And they continued to talk about confidence. I am not an intimate, I am not a supporter, I am not a defender of Donald Trump, the person. I'm a defender of civil liberties and basic due process, and that's what I'm going to continue to do because that's been my life's calling.
A defender of civil liberties, a defender of due process in the land of Brian Stelter, a.k.a. a fascist. That was...